I want to thank everyone who wished me well over the last week and a half while I was dealing with my oral surgeries and antibiotics and eye infections. I was a mess. So thank you all for reaching out to me and wishing me well. Welcome back to my channel. I know I've missed some time, but I'm back. And if you don't know who I am Christine, aka Dr. Simple Budgets. I'm a zero-based cash stuffing budgeter, and from time to time I love to upload videos on the psychology of budgeting and saving. I am here right now getting ready to do my planner for October. September went great, no problems there. October is a complicated month for me, but what I'm doing here is I am looking for washies and I'm getting ready to decorate my planner for October. My planner represents the side of my digital budget that is bills. Bills are going to be put in my planner here, and as the bills come out of my account, I just check them off. And all the other extra money after all the bills are paid go into my binders. And I want to talk to you about that today as well. So I picked this washi right here for October because it looks like the trees outside of my window, so I think it's appropriate. Okay, so what is today's psychological topic? It is intrinsic motivation and cash budgeting. Yes, cash budgeting. Before I did videos on budgeting in general, but I wanted to drill down deeper and try to find as much research as I could on cash budgeting. I recently just saw a video, not a video, it was a short that PBS put out, and they were talking about cash budgeting, and they kept saying the research says this and the research says that, but they never cited the research. One thing that you're going to get on my channel is I'm always going to tell you exactly what the research is, and I will leave you links to that research if you're ever interested in reading the research. I know research is very heady, so what I try to do on my channel is break it down for you. I read it, I analyze it, and I bring it to you. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, please like and subscribe to my channel. I do upload these videos on psychology once a month, usually at the end of the month. So if you've been following along with my YouTube series on the psychology of budgeting, you know we've already spent time talking about self-determination theory. Yay! That's that big framework in psychology that explains why we do the things we do, aka motivation. And I think in one of my last videos, we covered the 3 psychological needs, which are autonomy, competence, and relatedness, and how they pretty much set the stage for sustained, healthy motivation. If you missed that video, I will have it linked in the description below for you to watch. First of all, I pat myself on the back because it's a great introduction to self-determination theory, and I highly recommend it, and of course I do, right? And it will make your understanding of this video make more sense, okay? So perhaps you remembered that I created a chart in my last video. I'm going to insert that chart right here. So there they are, autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And at the bottom there, we see intrinsic. Well, today I want to do that deeper dive, 6 steps deeper, and focus on this one specific piece of self-determination theory that is super relevant to budgeting, and that's called intrinsic motivation. Perhaps you've heard the word intrinsic before. Well, it means you do it because you're motivated to do it. So that means there's enjoyment tied to it. And when we combine this with cash stuffing, we are going to, for the sake of this video, define intrinsic as the enjoyment of managing finances. Imagine somebody would enjoy managing finances. Well, guess what? A lot of us do. And you know which ones of us do? It's us cash budgeters. It's us. All right. And I'm going to bring you the research and what research has to say about that. So this intrinsic motivation, this enjoyment of managing finances, this is the kind of motivation that comes from inside of you. Not because someone told you to do something, not because of rewards or punishments, but because it feels good, it's meaningful, and you feel pretty satisfied when you do it. So cash budgeting actually can make intrinsic motivation even stronger by supporting self-determination theory needs. So cash budgeting supports those 3 needs. Let's go over the 3 needs again that all humans have. Competence, autonomy, and relatedness. So how does cash stuffing support competence? Well, cash budgeting can support the psychological need of competence by boosting competence because cash is tangible and visible. You've heard people say this before, it's in your hands. Well, it's true. You can literally see how much you have left in your envelope, or you can see how much you've saved up. And that creates this sort of physical feedback loop to your brain that helps you feel more effective at staying within your limits, which can be rewarding in itself. But secondly, cash systems can support autonomy if you choose them voluntarily, right? So you're making up the budget. You're deciding where your money goes, okay? So those binders that you see there in the upper right hand of my screen, those are my binders with all, that's the leftover money after I've paid all the bills that you see me writing down right now for my planner. I get to decide where that leftover money goes. And that's my autonomy. So like, for example, deciding to put $200 in an eating out envelope because that's what feels right for you, right? That works with your lifestyle. On the other hand, if someone else forces you into an envelope system or uses it to control your spending, it might undermine autonomy and make you resist the process. We've all watched Caleb Hammer talk to couples where one of the spouses was controlling the money. How did that work out for them? Not so great, right? That's why they're on his show. So, autonomy. But overall, using cash gives us that instant feedback. So you literally see the money going down or up and you know exactly what's left. You think, oh, I could see that in my bank account. No, you can't. You might have an amount in your bank account, but where do each of those dollars go? You think, well, in the back of my mind, I'm probably going to go out and eat. And then, yeah, it's going to cost me about $20. With the fact that you said about $20 means that you don't have control over your budget, because guess what? What if you go and it costs $25? Now you've dipped into your bank account in a way that you can't take it back at the end of the month. So that's why cash budgeting gives you that instant feedback, because you see how much money you have, you see what's left, you stick to it. Right? It helps you feel effective and confident in your ability to stick to your plan, which self-determination theory says boosts your intrinsic motivation. So lastly, cash budgeting can make intrinsic motivation even stronger by supporting the third need, which is relatedness. So yeah, cash budgeting can definitely touch relatedness, especially in households, like you're a couple that is doing cash budgeting, or a family who budget together and openly discuss your cash categories. You can experience a sense of teamwork and mutual support. That's cool. That can turn into what might feel like a financial chore if you don't do it. So it keeps your motivation really strong if the people around you are doing it too. So if you budget like with a partner or family, cash envelopes, you can have some great conversations around finances, and that's where your competency comes back in. So it's like this hamster wheel. It just goes around and around and around. It's great. What really matters here is the framing of it, okay? Because you're like, Christine, I feel like you said all that in your last video. And I'm like, yeah, I did. So that was the intro reminder. So how does cash stuffing help us with this intrinsic motivation? How? The answer is there is a psychological side effect of cash budgeting that works in your favor. So it makes the spending more real. In one of my first videos on psychology, I talked about the fact that motivation is fueled by either pain avoidance or pleasure seeking. You remember that? So studies show, and I'll tell you what the studies are. Studies show that people feel the pain of paying more strongly with cash than with cards or checks. And I imagine probably crypto too. They haven't done any studies with crypto yet for the obvious reasons. But paying with cash can help curb like your impulse spending because you're avoiding the pain of losing the money. Even further, physically taking the money out of your cash envelope before the amount that you were trying to save for is fully realized can be associated with pain as well. That happened to me recently because I had to pull money out to pay for my dental work. More on that later. But when you cash stuff that last dollar and you mark off that last icon in the envelope, there's a major side effect there of competency. So if that pain and that pleasure of using cash helps you to stay on track with your goals and you view it as a helpful tool rather than as a punishment, yeah, budgeting is going to feel great. It's not going to feel restrictive, and that's what the science says. All right. So it really matters. It matters when budgeting is intrinsically motivated, like it stops feeling like a chore and it starts feeling like a habit. There's a huge difference between saying I have to stay within my budget or I'll get in trouble versus I'm sticking to my budget because it makes me feel secure and in control. That's why I continue to pull out all these stickers and markers and mark in my planner all the time because it helps me feel secure and in control. Plus, I really like it. I get to do I like stickers, I like artistic work, but most of all, I love planning and organization. And plus, if you work on something like this for like an hour or two, this is where I lost. Oh, there they are. When you work on something for an hour or two, you're way, way invested in it. All right, so let's talk about the research. All right, so Ryan and Deci, they are the godfathers of self-determination theory, but I found a research article published in 2022, so it's fairly recent, by Ryan again and Domenico. So Ryan and Domenico in 2022 found that people with autonomous, meaning they're self-motivated, self-driven, motivation for financial management had way better knowledge, better habits, and better financial well-being, right? So you have to do it for yourself. That's huge. It tells us that when you budget for your own reasons and you create your own categories, you actually get better results. You'll stick to it. And you're thinking, well, I've already kind of heard you talk about this before. Okay, but this time in my research, I found research on cash budgeting. Cash budgeting. Now, let me be honest with you. I couldn't find many or any, really, peer-reviewed empirical studies that explicitly test the three constructs of autonomy, competence, and relatedness, or even autonomous versus controlled motivation. That is in the context of cash only. It's just not out there, and I think these researchers are leaving a lot on the table when they don't take advantage of, say, like the YouTube community of cash budgeting, cash stuffers. I mean, look at us. We are a group of people that would be great for a study. But anyway, that's for them to do. Also, there are no empirical studies, to my knowledge, explicitly comparing cash envelope, cash only budgeting systems versus other budgeting systems in terms of like intrinsic autonomous motivation. So there's plenty of room out there for research to be done if they would just do it. Okay, I don't have the financial backing to do such a large scale research. Now, as far as like money under the table, like people who get paid under the table, how does cash work for them? Well, it's the opposite. It's really weird. So it's like, I found this classic experimental study that when you're getting cash, which is performance contingent, like getting paid under the table jobs, yeah, somebody did a study on that. And they found out that like it's not good. It's not good at all. So here's what I did find. What I did find is the study with Domenico and Ryan. Cash budgeting can make intrinsic motivation even stronger by supporting those three needs. All right. Again, cash budgeting lets you decide ahead of time how much to spend in each category. So you're not just reacting what's left in your bank account, you're making intentional choices. Some cash budgeters use budget planners, some like myself use an Excel spreadsheet, and most, if not all, cash budgeters use cash envelope binders like I have. If you voluntarily set up envelopes with meaningful categories for groceries, eating out, or fun money, you're pretty much telling yourself, I choose my extra money to go to this, right? And that's the difference between people who just willy-nilly spend and those that know exactly where every penny is going. And this is very autonomous, supportive, because it's your choice and you call the shots. So Domenico and Ryan in 2022 found that people with autonomous motivations for financial management, meaning they budget and they save, because it aligns with their personal values. Us that do cash stuffing, we have better financial knowledge and higher well-being. All right. So, on the flip side, cash budgeting could backfire if it feels super controlling, or if you feel forced to do it, or it's used to micromanage someone's spending. That will decrease your motivation. Okay? So still, there's a huge opportunity for future research to test this more directly on the cash budgeting community. Hello, Ryan and DC and Domenico. They should be studying us more. Does using physical cash actually increase intrinsic motivation for budgeting? Or does it depend on the system that you come up with? Well, that is another area for study that would be what I would do, quite frankly. That's my question. But does using physical cash increase intrinsic motivation? Yeah, their study says yeah. But until researchers catch up, one thing is really clear. If you want your budgeting habit to stick, you got to choose a method that feels right for you. Me, I'm a half and halfer. I'm half in the bank, and I track my bills using this planner, and the other half of my money goes into those binders. And I'm a zero-based cash stuffing budgeter. That means every single penny of mine is accounted for, and it has a purpose and a place. Okay, so what was my takeaway? Well, let me give you the name of that research article. And by the way, I will put all the articles that I used and read in preparation for this video in the description below. The one that Domenico and Ryan and others, et al., basically means everybody else too, was called Motivations for Personal Financial Management, a Self-Determination Theory Perspective in 2022. That was the main one that I used. So my takeaway from doing this deep dive using cash budgeting is that cash budgeting is super powerful, and it is a direct way to activate intrinsic motivation. So if you're struggling with budgeting and you just can't seem to find the enjoyment in managing your finances, cash budgeting is the way, because it's direct causation to intrinsic motivation. Well, actually, I don't think they've done a causation. I think what they were doing here is a correlation. So let me take that back. It's a correlation, okay? But only when it supports your psychological needs will it work. When you choose it freely, when you use it to build financial confidence, it will work. If you're doing it to budget with others and they're on the same page, it will work. Doing it in a way that builds connection, it will work. It can actually make budgeting and managing finances feel really satisfying rather than draining. So, yeah, that's the deeper context of self-determination theory. It clearly points to the fact that budgeting doesn't just work because it's a plan. Let me say that again. These studies point to the fact that budgeting doesn't work just because it's a plan. Budgeting doesn't work just because it's a plan. It works because it meets our human needs to feel in control, capable, and supported. And when all those needs are met, we don't just budget, we actually want to budget. And that is intrinsic motivation. Mic drop. Mic drop for us cash budgeters. Boom. All right. In the description below, not only do I have my last psychology video on self-determination theory, I have linked the self-determination theory website down there, the financial motivation scale, and self-determination theory resources on economic and financial issues. That website provides a tailored financial motivation scale to measure intrinsic motivation for financial management. Is really cool if you want to see where you rate there. And an overview of how self-determination theory frames monetary incentives and autonomy in financial behaviors. And that's what we want, right? We want autonomy and we want intrinsic motivation in our financial behavior. All right. Handy tools if you really want to measure intrinsic motivation in budgeting research or interventions itself. Okay, so I'm going to put the 2022 research in the link below. I'm also going to put another one that I use for this video, Manganelli, Forrest, and et al., so other folks. It was called Using Self-Determination Theory to Understand When and Why Making Money Relates to Well-Being. That was published in 2020. That one was sort of helpful to what I found out today, but it was talking about motivation. So it was basically, reaffirming what Domenico and Ryan were saying. And then the one about money, cash under the table, being like a very negative thing for intrinsic motivation and autonomy, was done by Landry et al. And there was another one too. What was the guy's name? It was like a Japanese name. I'll have to find it. I'll have to find that one and put that one down below too. Myanmar or something like that. But this one by Landry, here's some money so your work is so worthy. That's the title of it. It was using a validation scale for the functional meaning of cash rewards. So like informative versus controlling. So about workplace cash rewards. And I've worked in a couple of places like that too. I'll link that below. So if you like this content, please like and subscribe for more psychology, budgeting, and cash envelope stuffing on my channel. Let's see. Today is Tuesday, so we need to stuff these binders for the month of October. So we will do that next time, and then we'll pick up again with our Tiny Tuesday series as well. So thank you all again, and see you next time, and stay psyched for saving. Bye.